Hi everybody, it's Mr. Citron, and today is officially my first day in Fairbanks. I spent the majority of the day today looking around, seeing what I can do tomorrow. Since it is the weekend, a lot of the research centers are closed. The scientists that I am supposed to meet could not meet with me today. So I just sort of roamed around Fairbanks, Alaska, looking for places where I can actually start doing some of my own permafrost research with my simple materials. I want to show you the kinds of things that I brought with me that you're also going to be using in class, at least some of the things. I brought with me these vernier probes. This one right here is going to measure conductivity. So I'm going to look at the kind of salts that are in the water to in fact see if there are some issues with too much salt, which is something that this conductivity meter will measure. This is a great instrument. You're going to be using this a lot. This is a GoPro temperature sensor. They're all wireless, by the way, and so I can send the data to my cell phone, even though I don't like cell phones, and also to my iPad, and then capture data in real time. And so this is a temperature probe that I'm going to be using to measure the temperature of the permafrost when I go to different regions to see if in fact there are going to be some changes with respect to the temperature of the permafrost based on the area that I'm in. Is it going to be a shaded area or a sunny area, high altitude, or I should say elevated versus not very elevated, sandy versus lots of vegetation. So this is going to be an interesting device, and I'm going to see what it actually tells me. And I do have some hypotheses that I'm thinking about, but you should also start to think about ways that you can use these instruments to do your own research experiments. I also brought with me a really expensive probe, and this is a CO2 probe, and what I'm going to be doing is I'm going to measure how much CO2 is emitted in certain parts of the permafrost in the different areas that I visit. I have to make a better device. This obviously was not something that I bought. I actually did buy it. I had to go to Starbucks and pay $5 for a tea so I can have a cup. I asked for water and they said, well, you have to pay $1 for water. I'm like, what? And then $1.25 for the cup. And I'm thinking, oh, I'll just get the tea. And then, of course, the tea was $5. So I really didn't come out ahead, but I did get the cup. But, of course, the cup really isn't going to work. I have to have a really tight seal. And I'm going to place this over certain areas that I visit on the ground, on permafrost, and see what kind of CO2 readings I get over time. I'm also going to have coordinates for all the readings that I take so that in the event that a scientist might want to take readings in that area and see what happens over time, it could be interesting. I'm not sure that's actually going to happen, but it is something that you need to think about when doing research, especially if you're going to do it over time, that you do it in the same place so that you can have a real sense of what's going on in a very specific area. I also brought with me this device right here is going to measure the reflection of light off surfaces, and so this is going to be really, really interesting to use, especially when there's so much thawing and there's less ice on the ground, less snow on the ground, and so that should be something that's going to give me a sense of the albedo in the region. I'm not sure how sensitive this is, but I hope it's pretty sensitive because it was super expensive. And I brought with me a gun that's going to measure the thermal temperature of all sorts of surfaces. This is going to true the data to some extent when I take temperature readings. This is the kind of thing that you see at airports or in certain buildings where people want to see if you have a temperature and they flash it against your head and you think that, you know, perhaps they're stealing your thoughts. That may be. What a great way to steal your thoughts. But anyway, this is something I brought with me to Alaska, and you're also going to be using this too to look at how different surfaces retain or release their energy. The other things I brought with me, of course, another temperature probe. This is, you know, budget. I drop it in the water. It's just going to give me a temperature at different depths. So I'm just really curious what the temperature is at different depths, given the aquatic environments that I hope to visit in Denali and also in Barrow. Of the other things that I brought with me that are very useful, especially if you're out in the field, I know you guys are going to make fun of me or think I'm hypocritical because I have so many electronic devices. These devices are being used for good purposes, not for, YouTubing or TikToking or playing games. Anyway, I have battery storage devices with me. I actually have four in the event that I need, I'm running out of energy. I do have a cell phone, and on this cell phone I have apps that will communicate with the wireless probes. I brought two cell phones with me just in case one gets ruined. This one it fits really nicely. This is also an Android, so I want an Android that's going to send information directly to my Gmail, my Drive, and this of course is going to send it to my iCloud. I'm really neurotic about that, so I want to make sure that whatever I capture gets saved, because if it doesn't, then I spent a lot of money coming to Alaska for naught. So I'm kind of nervous about that. I brought another this is a budget GoPro. This cost $20, but it's really pretty amazing. I mean, GoPros are like $300. I bought one of those too, but I'm hoping I don't have to use it. But this one is really super cheap. I use this, and you can't really see what you're taking pictures of or videotaping until you actually put the little memory disk into a device that will let you see it on your computer. But it's really pretty good for $20. This is it's a good deal. And then I brought some other stuff with me, of course. Thank you, Miss Maggio. I brought a Stymmeter plastic bottle. This is awesome, really durable, BPA free. I'm not sure what other plastics are in here that are causing all sorts of damage to my body. I have also with me another electronic device. This is measuring air quality. I'm kind of interested to see what the air quality is. Currently in Alaska, there have been some significant forest fires, one in the Denali region called the Clear Forest Fire, and it destroyed 70,000 acres of forest. It's a national emergency in the state. What's interesting is you probably aren't hearing much about that currently. Most of the fires that we're learning about or hearing about are in Europe right now or in California, but Alaska right now is actually fairly dry. Although when I go to Denali, apparently it's going to rain every single day and it's going to be really cold, and I hope I brought the right kind of gear. I'm usually pretty good about that, but this is an amazing device, and also it sends this information constantly to my phone. And this is actually really very good for citizen science projects, so that people can around the world that have this flow device can give a really nice composite of the air quality in different regions around the world. Because I'm slightly neurotic, and I always worry that I might go into places that I get, no one's around, and a lot of times I am traveling completely alone. Today I walked about 8 miles. I know I'm flexing, but I was in some areas that were off the road, and I'm thinking, well, what if I get bitten by a bee? There are no snakes up here. There are spiders, but there are bees, and I'm thinking, I haven't been bitten by a bee, or stung by a bee rather, in a long time, and I'm in the middle of nowhere, and what if I get stung, and all of a sudden I'm experiencing anaphylaxis? What did your neurotic science teacher get a friend who's a doctor for him do? I've got EpiPens, so I'm like golden, so bring it, bees. I also have this in case, I get stabbed or if I cut myself. Stop the bleeding instantly. I've used this in the past. It's amazing. You got it, I almost want to cut myself. I do have a knife. This is just really to look, intimidating. Gotta have suntan lotion. I mean, hello, I have these baby memory disks, a lot of them. This, really important. It looks like I'm a drug trafficker. No, I'm not carrying any drugs, I promise you. This is a poncho, but I made it really small. I have probably the coolest thing I have, a baby tripod. So it extends about 5 feet from the ground. It's also really awesome. I feel like I'm trying to sell you stuff. I'm really not. I'm just trying to tell you or teach you about the kind of equipment that you would have to bring to the field given certain experiments that you want to do. And since everything that I'm doing is is dedicated to field research and looking at certain things that happen to permafrost when it melts, these are actually really good instruments to bring. It's also what I was able to afford. I have a waterproof field notebook. In the case it rains, all my information is in here. I also have a measuring tape because I will try to measure certain areas that I am really interested in, kind of like a quad set. And I might actually do a quad set for you in Alaska. And I have a compass. I don't use Google. I use a budget compass. I'm old school, and I know a lot of you have no idea where north, south, east, west is relative to where you are at Stuyvesant. We're going to have to work on that. I mean, we really have to work on that. And I think that's pretty much it. Oh, and I have a single Band-Aid. I mean, that's, just happen to have that. So that's what I wanted to do today. I wanted to tell you about the instruments, and over the next few weeks, we're going to look at how I use these instruments and how you're going to use these instruments too in class. Some of the labs are actually going to be recipe type labs. That's so that you get acquainted with the instrumentation, and then over time you're going to think about your own research studies using these devices. Remember, I am using these devices to try to understand what is happening to the permafrost. I'm going to try to get data and see if I can find data from previous years, perhaps using the same instruments or using instruments that are similar to the ones that I'm using, to in fact see if there is some information that can be understood about the things that are changing. Alaska is the coal mine is the canary in the coal mine rather. Things are changing rapidly here, as they are around the world, and right now it's a little difficult to say if we can make a dent in reducing the greenhouse gases. People are not really doing the right thing, although they can. Right now there's a lot of talk about, okay, this is happening. What kind of mitigation efforts do we need to consider to try to protect, what's going on? All right, so I'll see you guys later. It's Mr. Citron signing off. Bye, everyone.